Yo, what's going on, CZN fam? I'm Sue, and in this video, I want to go over every single combatant that is in the Chaos Zero Nightmare closed beta. Basically, kind of give you an overview of what each character is capable of, what they're all about, so that way you can kind of have an idea going into the actual launch what character you might want to actually re-roll for. I think, at least in the closed beta, the balance is pretty good overall, so I don't really think you can go wrong with any of these characters. And again, this is based on the closed beta, so things might change at launch. But again, I feel like I would just make a video, put it out there, because a lot of people on stream seem to really want to know this stuff. So sure, why not? I have either played or seen almost every single character in this game used. The only characters I'm pretty iffy on how I feel about them are Hugo, because I only really know one person that played him, and Veronica, who again, I only know one person that actually played the character. So my opinions on these two in particular might not be the best, but I'll still try my best to explain how I think those characters work. And if I'm wrong, you can let me know down, of course, in the comment section below. So let's get started by talking about Luke. So admittedly, Luke is probably the weakest 5-star in the beta, and it's not because the character is bad, it's because we are hard capped to level 30. And the big thing about Luke is that his core card, Rapid Fire, needs him to land critical hit chance. And his awakenings, like his little potential awakenings here that give him crit chance, we can't access that in the beta. So he's going to probably be a lot stronger in the base game than he was during the beta. So essentially, you use cards like Rapid Fire to generate handgun bullets if you actually land a critical hit chance, or use Stealth Reload to just generate 2 random handgun bullets. And so these handgun bullets are essentially one-time use damage attacks that have beneficial effects. They're all single target. Basically, how Luke operates is just, I want to crit, I want to generate a lot of single target attacks and just go pew pew pew, and then use various different other effects to either buff my bullets or get bonus damage based on the number of bullets that are in my current hand. So overall, that's kind of his vibe. And if you really like the character Lucas, who we're talking about later, that's his brother here, this guy, they also generate bullets. So the two of them actually work incredibly well together. So if you're just interested in just having a deck that's focused around generating a lot of different types of random attacks and then just spamming them out, Luke might be that character for you. Next up is Calliope. Calliope is essentially a bruiser slash tank character who specializes in high cost cards for very devastating AoE attacks. Her core mechanic is this thing here, Celestial. Any card with the Celestial keyword activates whenever you play a card that costs 2 or more action points from your hand. So in this case, you can pay the 3 action points to use Vulture Ejection, but if you just simply play a card like Upward Slash, which is just a expensive single target attack, it will automatically activate Vulture Ejection from your hand. So that is kind of how it actually works. And since it has Retain and Retrieve, it will never really get discarded from your hand. You basically are just going to have this in your hand, and anytime you play a 2-cost or higher attack, you're going to get this defense-based damage to all enemies, a little bit of a shield, so on and so forth. And then other cards of hers, like Overpower, will give you another shield whenever you play something that costs 2 or more, and it will also kind of defense break the enemy team. Calliope is a character I think that's pretty simple to use. You just play the most expensive cards in your hand. You get a lot of value out of it because her cards either loop into themselves, do huge damage, or just completely death break the entire enemy team. And cards like Rally kind of smooth over your bad hands. Just overall a very well-rounded character. Next up is Magna, who is my favorite character to play in the beta. Aside from another one that we'll talk about in a bit. She's probably my favorite defensive slash sustained character to play in this beta. Essentially, Magna is a character that cares about 2 things. 1, generating a lot of shields with her various different skills. As you can see, most of her skills generate a shield, a barrier. Shields in this game prevent damage that would be dealt to you, so you build up a big enough barrier so that they hit you, you don't really take any damage. And a lot of her cards also build up her ability to counter. So you sit there, tank up, put up the wall, and if they hit you, you just kind of throw them the big left hook and just do a ton of damage to them. And you can enhance her counter so that they have AoE attacks, like on this card here, Ice Wall. She's just Super simple, super solid, slots into almost every single team as an excellent frontliner and a way to kind of keep your team topped off. If you just have a good Magna, you don't really even need a sustainer. You could play like Magna along with like Luke and his brother Lucas, and you'll probably be just fine. Just super simple, super solid character with a very straightforward game plan. Next up is Rin. I know this is one that's very, very popular. This is the character I played the most in this beta, and I do think that she is a good character overall. So Rin is a character that is a single target DPS that rewards good sequencing. And what do I mean by that? So a lot of her cards have this Dark Cloud stance. When you go into Dark Cloud stance, you will gain the effect of cards that say Dark Cloud Blade Art. So for example, this Drawing Slash, I would not get the Dark Cloud Blade Art effect if, you know, I didn't play something before this first. So you have either Drawing Slash to go into the stance, or you have Dark Cloud Arcane Art Destruction, right, which as you see here, it says obtain Dark Cloud stance. This also puts you into the stance. So essentially, you want to get the stance as the first action in any turn. And once you have the stance, your goal should be to either A, find a stance card for next turn, or use a card like Dark Cloud Force Art to remain in the stance for next turn. Because as long as you have the stance, your cards have bonus effects. So for example, Dark Cloud Arcane Art Annihilation does 180% damage. But if you're in the stance, it procs twice. So you'll get 360% damage instead, right? And then you have obviously cards like this. Black Mist does 190% damage, but if you're in the stance, then you will get essentially an extra attack for every skill card in your hand, skill cards being these blue ones. So that's kind of how you want it to go. You want to generate a lot of skills in your hand so that way you could kind of, you know, burst them with this move, but before you do that, you have to figure out how do I get into the stance. So if you can stay and keep and maintain that stance for the entire battle, Rin will absolutely just decimate like any like big boss, any chunky monster that you're actually fighting. Very, very fun character, very rewarding character to play. Speaking of rewarding, next we have Orlea. So Orlea is a character that wants to just play the long game. Most of her cards heal up your team or stall out the enemy and kind of keep you alive for a very long time. And the reason for that is because of the key card here in her basic deck, Sacred Censer. When you use it, you generate 2 1-star creation cards. These are the creations that she can make. Softy, which increases the damage you deal on your next attack. Swifty, which is an attack itself. And then Tuffy, which gives you a shield and also can heal your party. Now, these cards are one-time use only, but if they sit in your hand, you pass your turn with them, these cards get stronger. And the longer they stay in your hand, the more potent they get. So on a long enough timeline, you can grab and keep a bunch of slimes in your hand and just try to stall out the game for like 10, 15, 20 turns. And then just go, okay, I have, let me show you here. Like, I have one of these bigger ones. Like, these are the 2-star versions. And there's also 3-star versions. I'm trying to see where it is. Yeah. So you could get to a point where you have a 3-star Softy to increase the damage, and you might have a Swifty that's been sitting in your hand for so long that it'll do like 3,000% damage and absolutely crush a boss. So that's basically the general plan with Orlea. She's not my personal favorite, but if you're the kind of person that likes to sit there and just like one-tap something with a hilariously huge number and just stall things out with like healing and tanking, Orlea can be that character for you. So next we have Mei Lin. So Mei Lin is another character in the same vein as like Rin. It is a single target DPS that rewards good sequencing. So let's take a look at Mei Lin's cards. She is designed to basically buff herself up so that she can just absolutely dumpster the opponent with a flurry of cards. So you can just see in her base deck, she starts with Jewel of the Flame Dragon. This always starts in your opening hand. And what it does is it increases the attack card damage that you have by 40%. And then when using an attack, it applies 1 passion weakness to the target. So essentially, passion is the color red in this game. It gives them weakness to red cards. So essentially, when a red character hits, she does more damage to it. So the first one will make them take more damage from red cards, and then all of her cards are red, so she'll just keep absolutely shredding their defense and doing a ton of damage. And then you have cards like Unity of Attack and Defense, which will draw all of your attacks no matter where they are in your deck, and you can kind of just unload on people. You have other things like Spirit of Armada, which basically increases the damage you deal. It just kind of is like just a super buff. And then, of course, her ultimate, her ego skill, just gives you 100% crit chance on all of your moves and gives you an extra 200% crit damage. So essentially, you just kind of buff up, get a ton of attacks in your hand, you know, and then just absolutely destroy people. Very satisfying character to play, because if you've got a bunch of cards in your deck, a lot of different attacks like this one here, you can absolutely just rain down thousands of points of damage on your opponent with good sequencing. So next up is Veronica, and like I said at the start, this is one of the characters I don't fully grasp too well, but Veronica is essentially a like support DPS hybrid. So you'll always start with this card in your hand, Firing Preparation, which as you can see, it will create one ballista, and at the start of each of your turn, you will gain a ballista. So ballista is this card here, and as you can see, it says at the end of the turn, it deals 150% extra attack damage to a random enemy. So all of Veronica's cards are essentially, I generate random single target attacks on them while also providing my teammates with some extra value, right? So like this card, Sir Kowalski, reloads and gives you a random one of these ballistas that'll go off at the end of the turn, and also draws you a card. Things like Repose will give a shield to your team, and then also give you cards from other people on your team, because she wants to extra attack. She's going to get follow-up attacks. So that's essentially it. She's kind of like a supporter that generates passive damage for your team. After that, we come to Renoa, who is, I guess, the game's main character, the captain of the SS Nightmare. And Renoa's entire thing is that she wants to generate Dirge bullets. So cards in her deck generate this Dirge bullet, which is a one-time use effect. And when it's moved to the graveyard, you get a attack on a random enemy for half the damage. So essentially, it's like the handgun bullets generated from Luke, but it's a little different, right? If you kind of don't play the Dirge bullet, right? You generate it, but never play it, it will remain in your deck. And every time you pass your turn, any bullets still left in your hand just get generated into free damage. And this is important because you can see that certain attacks that she has, like Instant Judgment, get bonus damage for having bullets in hand. You can see this one also, Ballad of Pitch Black, also increases damage by bullets in hand. And then also, you could discard 2 cards from your hand to generate that many bullets in hand. Now, why do you want to have so many bullets in hand? Well, it's because her ultimate here, Resolute Assault, just absolutely does a shitload of damage based on how many bullets are in your hand. And I know what you're thinking, well, what happens if I don't have all my bullets in hand? Her ego skill, her ultimate, puts the bullets, no matter where they are, into your hand, in addition to firing off an attack. So once you have a critical mass of bullets, you activate Blackthorn, yoink all of them to your hand, and then Resolute Assault and probably just one-shot whatever the hell you're fighting. So that's kind of how the character works. And even if that's not the case, you don't want to blow this out, you could still just ego skill, get like 9 bullets to your hand, pass your turn, and remember the base bullet effect will still deal an attack. So just a very, I'm not saying complicated or complex character, but a character that really rewards you for thinking ahead about your moves. Next up is Hugo. Hugo is, as far as I can tell, just a ridiculous single target DPS that kind of has like an extra attack. For those of you that play Epic 7, he's essentially like Afternoon Soak Flan. He has this Commence the Hunt effect, which is essentially like if somebody ends up attacking, he's gonna do a follow-up attack. As far as I can tell, that's basically how he ends up working. He just gets extra damage on extra attacks, and everything your allies do are going to cause him to just kind of, you know, open up this briefcase here and just fire off a bunch of missiles at the opponent. That's kind of the gist of what I got from my limited time with him. Again, if I'm wrong, please let me know down in the comments below. But as far as I can tell, he is a character that just kind of synergizes with other attackers on your team and kind of, you know, brings his own damage, essentially enhances the overall damage that your team puts out. Next up is Keiron, and aside from Magna, this is the character I have played the most in the beta. He is the most fun character to me that you can play offensively in the game. So how Keiron works is his cards, like Echo of Futility, is they generate these cards called Futility. These are essentially worthless cards. So you will have a bunch of dead cards in your deck that do effectively nothing. Now, why would I want to play a character that generates garbage cards that I can't play? Well, that's because of a couple of things. So you have things like Oath of Vanity, which turn the useless cards into attacks that can heal you. Or you have cards like Black Hole that care about the number of cards in your exhaust pile for damage. So if you have nothing better to do during your turn, you can essentially just pitch the futilities that are worthless into your exhaust pile and use that to kind of fuel Black Hole and get just insane amounts of damage for like a single target, or in the case of Brand of Annihilation, AoE attack, right? Like as long as you have a ton of banished cards in your deck, he's going to be just doing absolute like insane amounts of damage. He's a character that really rewards you for kind of understanding the intricacies of how to build a consistent deck. You want to pair him with characters that can remove stuff from his deck, or cards that can kind of circumvent the weaknesses of his deck. Like once you get a bunch of garbage cards, characters like, I'll jump ahead here for a second, Cassius. Cassius has a lot of draw power, a lot of ways to search the deck. So you want to be pairing Keiron with characters like this, so that way he can circumvent his weakness, and you can really lean into the things that make him strong, like powerful AoE effects, or just like, you know, massive single target moves that just do thousands of damage. Next up is Nia, and Nia is one of the like 4 supports, give or take, that are currently in the game. I think she is a support that really lends herself to characters that want to play extra attacks. So characters like Hugo, for example, or a character that we'll talk about a little bit later, which is Selena. So characters that want extra attacks, Nia is going to end up being the support for you. If you take a look at her cards here, G-Cord is basically the bread and butter of her basic deck. It deals damage, and then a random ally performs an extra attack. It's kind of like, she's kind of like Tamarin from Epic 7, although not as broken. She has guaranteed dual attacks. She has built-in healing and buffing for your team. Like her ultimate gives morale, so it's just extra damage for your team. Nia's Curiosity, again, same thing. It's just going to give you some extra damage. And then the rest of her cards are just all about dual attack damage, getting more dual attack damage for your entire team, right? Activate extra attack on 2 random attack cards from your graveyard. So essentially, you're just going to be trying to get a bunch of healing and a bunch of dual attacks coming out of your team. And if that's what you're already set up to do with your other characters, then Nia's kind of that character that you want to play as a support. So again, if you're an extra attack focused team, a team focused on marks, this is going to be the support you're probably going to want to lean into. Next up is Selena, and it's very much what we were just talking about with Nia there a second ago. Selena's whole thing is that she generates a lot of extra attacks. Her cards have Mark, which is essentially the next 2 attacks that you perform for Mark 2, she's going to follow up with an extra attack. And a lot of her moves also have the ability to kind of either reduce the, or I should say increase the damage that red characters deal, like herself, or just kind of pierce the enemy's shields. So essentially, you're just trying to mark characters with her, and then just use her attacks to break shields, and then get follow-up attacks to help break shields for the enemy, or against the enemy. So that's basically the gist of how this character works. Next up is Tressa, which is one of the 3 starting characters, and I think this is a character that really rewards creative deck building and sequencing. So the gist of how Tressa works is that she creates shadow daggers, which are like handgun bullets, but a little bit different. So shadow daggers cost no points, like unlike the dirge bullets that Renoa generates, but they also mark the target with agony, which is essentially like bleed. It's a dot, like a damage over time effect. So she could kind of just pick and choose what she wants to do and put a lot of dots down on various different characters, right? And her cards kind of help her do that. You can see this one here. 2 poison, 2 weakness. So this, it's kind of a mistranslation, but yeah, this is going to dot down characters. So if you want to go for like a dot build, you're going to want something like this. But there's also other crazy things you can do. Like if you look at the epiphanies here, so there is like a unsheathed dagger that gives you 3 daggers in hand. And then you have other other stuff like Shadow Reload can create like an upgraded Shadow Dagger, or in the epiphanies, right, it can spend all of your daggers as like a huge AoE attacker. So she kind of just rewards you, right? Like this one here gives you some healing times the number of mana spent into it. So on your turn, you can spend all of your action points. Let's say you have 4 action points. It's going to heal 400, but then also make 8 Shadow Daggers, which you could then use to combo out and do whatever the hell you want with it. So that's kind of how the character works. You got to get real creative and figure out, how do I want to make daggers, and how do I want to spend my daggers? That's kind of how the character functions. So you could either go as like a healer, you could go as a dot-based character, you could go as like a super big AoE character, you could kind of pick and choose and just surgically single target this one, just throw the knife here, throw the next knife there. Very, very fun character. I think for a starter, she's the most enjoyable character to play. And I think a lot of new players will gravitate towards her because she's really good at teaching you the ropes of like how to get used to the game systems and what you can really, really take advantage of. Oh, okay, so next is Amir, who regrettably I did not get in the beta, but this is the character that everybody will be getting for free at launch. Amir is basically an offensive tank. So she has this kind of mechanic called metallization. So metallization basically says whenever you generate a barrier on your team, she will spend 1 metallization to do a basic attack on a random enemy. So what you want to do is gain a bunch of metallize and then start shielding up with various different effects, and she will just follow up and do a bunch of damage, right? So as you can see, and then she has other abilities that are like, hey, reduce my damage taken, spend all of my metallized stacks that I'm not using for big damage. That's basically the gist of how the character ends up working. You just want to generate barriers in order to actually spend metallization. At least that's what I gather from actually watching other people play the character. Next up is Lucas, who we've already talked about. Lucas is kind of like the opposite of his brother Luke. Luke generates handgun bullets to surgically dismantle people with single target attacks. Lucas generates bullets that do a ton of AoE effects, right? So he's got like these ones here, right? Dispersing shot will essentially cause frail on all enemies. Then you have explosive shot, which will weaken all enemies, so it's like attack down. This one is like, oh, it does bonus damage to shield characters. This one delays the attack of all of my opponent's stuff. And then this one is going to dot everybody on the enemy team. He's just got a ton of different like random AoE effects that he generates. And then he has things like flamethrower, big AoE attack that kind of gives you some consistency, some way to kind of move through your deck if you've got nothing else to do. Flashbang, again, another big AoE attack that kind of attacks down everybody. He's a really satisfying character to play. I really like him a lot. I didn't get to play him as much as I wanted to because I really feel like his best teammate is his brother Luke, and I really couldn't bring out Luke that well in the beta. This is a character I think I'm going to be spending a lot of time trying to cook with come the actual live thing. But if you're looking for a very fun character to play that's very heavy on AoE, then Lucas is that character for you. Next up is Maribel. And Maribel is essentially kind of like Magna, but like a different flavor. So what makes Maribel different is that she essentially is like more of a bruiser. She's more offense oriented, I feel like, than the 5-star tanks are. Like she's more like single target offense focused. She can absolutely gain a bunch of counters, but she also has like certain upgrades that are like, hey, my single target damage attacks deal extra damage based on how big my barrier is. So she wants to get like super tanky, make big shields and counter just like Magna, but a lot of her upgrades and things like that are like great at shredding defense, doing big single target damage, things like that. She's not too much different than like Magna. If you like Magna and you didn't get her, or you just want to play Team Booba score, then like, yeah, Maribel is going to end up being a good character for you. She's very simple to play and very effective. The second character that you get from the starter squad is Mika, and Mika is, I think, one of the best well-rounded supports in the game. Like, if you don't know what support you want to play, Mika is probably going to end up being that character for you. So the key card that Mika has is Essence of Water. It's a little bit of healing for 0 action points, and it grants you another action point, which allows you to extend plays. And there are certain upgrades that you could get on this thing with Epiphany, right? To give you things like a draw, if I'm not mistaken. One of her cards has a draw one. I think it might be this other one. Tactical Analysis has the Epiphany draw one. Nope, won't. Try to figure out which one it is. Anyways, just trust me, one of her cards has a draw one built into it. It is super good for just kind of cycling through your deck and gaining some action points. And then her ego skill as well just gives you 2 of the Essence of Water card into your hand. So essentially, if you just want to make long plays, like just do more actions per turn and still want to play a healer on your team, then Mika's going to be the character for you. She's going to make the game very simple early on. I don't know how well she'll be long term, but at least at the beginning of Chaos Zero Nightmare's lifespan, this is going to be just one that's going to really kind of ease you into the game, help you get used to the game systems. Next up is Beryl. And this character, you're either going to love this character or you're going to hate this character. So Beryl's entire deck is about the retain mechanic. So normally when you end your turn, you discard every card in your hand. The cards that retain stay in your hand. Beryl gets effects by having her attacks sit in her hand for at least 1 turn to charge up. So essentially, Beryl is kind of like a give and take. You use support cards from your other characters on your team on certain turns, and then once a turn passes and everything's charged up, she just unloads on people for ginormous single target DPS. Like, you could have like opening found and charge shot in one hand, have them kind of be there together, retained, play her with a character like Mika, then next turn go heavy weapon specialist, generate 2 more attacks that have their cost reduced, and then just basically go double opening found, double charge shot, and just blast somebody, you know, off the face of the earth. She's basically the cute bruiser archetype. She's just this tiny girl that comes in with a big ass gun, and once it's charged up, she just kind of unloads and kills one thing. So that's the gist of how you play Beryl. Next up is Cassius, who I think is the most rewarding character to play for card game veterans. So how Cassius works is he has a little bit of RNG, a little bit of mini games that he introduces to all of his, the decks that he's a part of. So his signature card here is Pop-Eyed Popper. You get one of these 4 random quests that are just activated right away when you play it. So for example, if you use 3 cards that cost 0, you get a 000 to your hand, right? Which is going to be a attack that deals extra damage based on the number of attacks you've played that turn, right? You play 3 cards that cost 1, you'll get a 111, right? Which is a healing spell. If you play cards in a straight sequence, 0, 1, 2, well, then you're going to get a buff to your entire team. And then if you manage to perform a full house, essentially 3 of one cost card, 2 of another, then you are rewarded with a free draw 2. So if you have good sequencing and understand the contents of your deck, he will just generate a lot of free value. And that's not to say nothing of his actual unique cards, because they're all really, really insane. So Devil Dice is a above average rate attack that draws you a card. Drawing is the best thing you could do in a card game. Shuffle is literally card destruction from Yu-Gi-Oh! Just discard your hand and draw that many cards. Dice Trick is an above rate attack that costs 0 if you are actually playing the cards correctly in your deck. And then Joker, which is, in my opinion, the best skill in the entire game. It is a free card that searches your entire deck for anything you want and puts it in your hand. And if you have 1 dupe of Cassius, right, his M1, Joker also can pull a card out of your graveyard. So this card gets anything you want from your deck. Again, if you played any card game, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, you name it, I don't think I have to explain to you how broken a search for anything is, especially a free search for anything you want. So yeah, I cannot stress this enough. Cassius might not seem like much. He might not be easy to understand or use at first. But once you understand how to use him, he's going to feel really, really broken. He is very, very high skill cap, but very, very rewarding. Next up, we have Owen, who is another one of the starting characters that they give you for free. And Owen might not seem like much, but he's a pretty good jack of all trades character that's leaning heavy into an AoE attacker. So Owen's cards have a little bit of defense. He can be kind of that off tank if you want him. He can kind of, you know, protect you, because you can see his ultimate is literally just a big ass single target nuke that also puts up a big ass barrier, right? Same thing. He's got some shielding in his kit, right? He's got some defense breaking in his kit, hence break armor. And then the big thing about him is Wind Slash, right? This is his AoE attack that hits everybody, and a lot of the upgrades that he has make it so that it does either more damage, or it becomes like Green Vivian's S2 and Epic 7, where if it gets a kill, the card activates again, and if that kills, then it activates again, and so on and so forth. And then you finally have Wind Charge, which is kind of like, it gives you an extra attack, and then this one here, Wind Riding, which will find the Wind Slash or whatever have you throughout everything. So essentially, that's kind of how it's going to end up being. You use this to grab this for like bonus hits on this, and you kind of loop it. He kind of just can do a lot. You can either lean into getting extra attacks for single target, you can constantly keep pulling up AoE attacks, or you can build him in such a way that he's kind of just a bruiser that's like, I hit really hard and I also generate a ton of shields to boot. So do not sleep on this guy. He is free. He looks like straight fodder or trash, like you would expect in any gacha game, but surprisingly, he's pretty competent, especially if you get some dupes in him. As you can see, I have a lot of dupes into him. He do some damage with these dupes. He is very, very competent as a character. And then the last character to talk about here is Ray, and Ray is kind of a jack of all trades character. So Ray can do it all. She is kind of like a choose your own, build your own supporter style character. So not only does Ray have a little bit of incidental healing in her kit with things like material regeneration and snack time, she's also got, you know, cards that can help smooth over your draws. So you can have effects that kind of like Blade of the Predator. It's a way above average rate attack that gives her a massive attack buff for one turn. And then you could kind of just unload with her attacks. You could kind of build her as a one cost matters deck that kind of just spams out a bunch of basic attacks. You could have her be a heavy hitter. You could have her be a support that just generates attack buffs for your entire team, buffs up the damage of their skills with things like Dark Condensation, right? She kind of just lets you do whatever you want. You have a lot of different ways you can lean with the character. She's like a mage that can be a support mage. She can be a healer. She can be a DPS. Like whatever you kind of need Ray to be, she can kind of fill that niche. And that's why I really like her. She's a very free-form character. Also, her ego skill is just insane. It's basically just a free defense break on whatever the hell you're fighting. So, hey, it might as well just read, spend 4 ego points, big ass nuke on a character, death break them, and then just get an AP. So just overall, really solid character. You get extra bonuses, by the way, to all of your card damage for all allies if you get her to M6. Kind of solidifying what I'm saying about dupes being really, really strong in this, excuse me, in this game. But yeah, that's kind of Ray in a nutshell. She's not really obvious what you're supposed to do with her. And that's because, again, she could kind of go in a bunch of different directions. And the more I played her, the more I really started to enjoy this character. Just because, again, lots of great support, utility. Like, whatever I needed on a Chaos run, I could have Ray be that for me. If I needed her to be my carry, she could be my carry. If I needed her to be my healer, she could be my healer. If I needed her to just, like, have her, you know, get and hold a bunch of draw cards and just have her be the consistency, the engine that moves me through my deck, she could be that for me, too. So, yeah. Really fun and interesting character. And yeah, I think that's everybody. So there we go. Roughly 30-ish minutes, give or take, as a brief overview of every single character that is in the Chaos Zero Nightmare beta. If you managed to make it into the closed beta, let me know who your favorite was to play down in the comment section below. And if you didn't make it into the beta, which character is most interesting to you? Which character are you excited to play with the launch of Chaos Zero Nightmare? If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments or over on my Discord, which is linked in this video's description. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later now.